Good Sunday evening, high school sports fans. Joe Gillaway with Lingelstown Gazette Sports live from the Orchard Street studio. And this is our high school football week 16 or championship week recap show. I'll be joined momentarily by our panel of experts as soon as we're done thanking those responsible for bringing you tonight's show, our Lingelstown Gazette Sports platinum sponsors. And they are Rickabaz Electric, Payor Apparel, Ted's Bar and Grill, Hoffman Ford, Freedom Financial Wealth Management, The Tire Mart, American Legion Post 272, Modern Imprint, Team PA, AAU Basketball, Crystal Bob at Howard Hanna Real Estate, Underdog Sports Bar and Grill, Capital Region Insurance Agency, Sam Hartley Decking, and Tonino's Pizza. Thank you very much to those great local businesses for their continued support of Lingelstown Gazette Sports and our area's student athletes. Upcoming on Gazette Sports Chat tomorrow night, Monday at 7 o'clock, we're going to have our high school basketball recap show. It's our second installment. And then after tomorrow, we're going to move back to Sunday at 6 like we've done for football. We have Paul Blackburn joining us as our opening guest tomorrow. And then next Monday, we have Coach Riccativo. Paul Blackburn's from Hershey, Riccativo from LD. So we got some add to that last week's. We had Coach Wayne Fletcher from Central Dauphin. We got some heavy hitter high school basketball coaches join us on this show. And then tomorrow night, we're going to do a kind of like a impromptu or special situation podcast on the Susquehanna Township athletics department. Let's call it a situation. It is a situation. And it involves Coach Joe Heeden. Essentially, I think he's been given his walking papers or not given an opportunity to keep his job in one way or the other. They opened his position. I'm trying to be diplomatic because I'm going to moderate the show. Okay, I'm not there. We're not there to kind of pass ultimate judgment, but we're going to talk about it. And then there's a situation with the girls' basketball head coaching job too. So that's going to be interesting. We have some members of the community, some very bright, knowledgeable, informed members of the community that are going to join us tomorrow night. And we're going to kind of dissect it a little bit, break it down a little bit, and try to get some answers for some of the people in the community, especially the Susquehanna Township community, who want answers. So anyway, tonight we have Eric Thomas, we have Dave Berman, we have Gary Barnett. He was with us the other night for the trivia, and he did such a great job. We had a trivia contest that I invited him on the show. It's kind of like an added award. The main prize was, and I want to mention one more time, Primanti Brothers. They provided gift cards for Gary and Brad Fenton, the other guy who joined us. He is a Jeanette High School offensive line coach, and he's at his team's banquet tonight. So anyway, and I left Travis Waters for last because he kind of started this with me. Okay, we met by accident, and that's the way that God works. You know what I mean? He kind of connects the dots. He connects people, and before this all started, I kind of was on one of these Pennsylvania High School Football Forum posts or threads, and it was something that people weren't agreeing about, a little bit of a debate or argument going on, and I saw all of Travis's answers, and I didn't even know who he was. I said, I agree with everything Travis just said, and I have no idea what the topic was. Of course, it was months ago, but then we met, I guess by accident. We met on the sideline of Severance Field, the Harrisburg LaSalle College game. Well, that was by accident, wasn't it, Travis? I mean, I don't think we didn't plan on like hooking up there or anything. And I said, oh yeah, you're the guy. Yeah, that had made those comments. I agree. And I asked you that day, I think, hey, do you want to start this football show? And we did. And the first week, I'm almost certain, was just Travis and myself. So, Travis, thanks for being with us here for 4 months, 16 weeks, really. And the other guys, Eric, Dave, we really appreciate it. So, anyway, let's just jump into housekeeping. Here's the way I think we're going to do it. Do some housekeeping, which is just kind of some facts and figures and some things that just kind of information, I guess you'd call it. And then we're going to do things kind of a little backwards. We're going to finish up. Normally we do like our game of the week, the sexy game, the game that everybody wants to hear about first. And we're going to make you wait a little bit, and not just to make you wait, but McDevitt in 5A won a state championship. Okay. So we're going to kind of crescendo. We're going to finish up with McDevitt with the 5A game. We're going to start with 1A, go 2A, 3A, 4A, 6A, and then 5A. And we'll give McDevitt the last, portion of the show because they earned it. And so that way, I don't want to like kind of get McDevitt out of the way and then kind of go, I don't want to say backwards, but we're going to finish up with McDevitt tonight. So this season started back on Friday, August 23rd with 555 teams. It ended 106 days later with six. Six teams are now champions. Districts to win titles were District 3 won 1, District 4 won 1, District 6 won, District 11 won, first time in 14 years, and District 2 won 2 titles. 3 games were lopsided, decided by 19, 26, and 29 points. 1 game was decided by just a single point, and 2 games went into overtime. So half the games were thrillers, the other half were blowouts, and it's been worse, but the thrillers were pretty thrilling. District 9, represented by Port Allegheny in 1A and Central Clarion in 2A, were looking for their first title in history. Neither team won. District 9 and District 5 still the only districts without a state championship, PIAA state championship. The 3A champion, Northwestern Lehigh, was the first District 11 rep in 14 years to bring home gold. The last was Allentown Central Catholic, 28, McDevitt, 27 in 2010. So, again, that was 14 years. And this is the first year since 1992 without a champion from District 7. And we kind of felt like District 7, I don't know if we want to say it was super loaded or anything like that, but I think we thought collectively, I thought that they would not get shut out, but they did this year. So anyway, let's just talk about, thanks for bearing with me there. Let's just talk about a couple things here in housekeeping that we can all kind of talk about together. Instant replay. There is no instant replay. There are states that have it. I saw a couple big, in 2 of those tight games I just mentioned, I saw plays that once they're shown in slow motion, the officials miss the calls, okay? That happens. This is not. I have friends that are officials. They're better than I would be, and I'm not blasting officials. It has nothing to do with them. Naked eye is tough. I think back in 2018, I think it was Penn Hills when they won. They beat Manheim Central 36-30. I saw a touchdown that was actually like 1.5 yards short. When the knee goes down, they call the touchdown. The ball was like way behind the goal line. And I've been thinking ever since 2018, wow, they could really use instant replay, at least just for the state championships. Fellas, what do you think? Is that asking too much? I'm talking 6 games, not any games before that.
I'll say I think these are big games. They mean a lot to the fan bases. They mean a lot to the players. They mean a lot to the coaches. And let's be honest. None of us, no official is going to be 100%. It's just impossible.
Right.
I watched the Philadelphia Carolina game today, and the referee, it looks like he's looking right at a face mask, and he didn't call it, and I assume he didn't see it. And they say that the worst kind of witness is an eyewitness. They're very, very low credibility. And I'm not saying officials are low credibility, but everything's moving so fast. Athletes are getting faster and faster. So I do think it makes sense, but I just don't. I mean, I don't even know what the technology is for, instant replay. And well, I know it's instant replay, but getting that call down to the field. I know the colleges have gone to it, of course, the pros. So I think it's a tough call. I would not want to see it throughout the whole season, but maybe in the state championship games.
I'm talking scoring plays and turnovers only. Yeah. ET, what do you have to say? Eric Thomas? You're muted, Eric. I don't know if he hears us.
Okay. There we go. No, I got you now. Yeah,
am I just being a whiner here, or is that something
there's a system in place they can use it for basketball in the state of Pennsylvania, but it's only if the game is decided at the buzzer. So if you go back 6-7 years ago when Chance Westry almost hit that three for Trinity. They could have reviewed that if it was the deciding play to end the game. I don't think there's anything in place for football. And I can tell you, as somebody who has done Division II and now Division III football and basketball for the last 7 years, they don't institute it in any of the regular season games for that. But the conference tournaments, they do. And I've only ever seen it used one time. And the effort that those schools and leagues have to make to get that replay set up just for those conference tournaments, and it's only, I believe, in the semis and the finals. I think the PSAC only does it for semis and finals. The effort they have to put in to get that done is not something that's going to be conducive to high school sports in the state. I know Jersey does it, but even for state finals, I cannot see the PIAA stretching any kind of dollar to outsource any type of replay system.
Okay. And I don't disagree with you. Okay. I just think it's kind of like something that, like, Travis, like you put it best. These still, it's only football. It's only high school football. You know, these are only 6 games all year, the only championship games. And it's a big, big deal, I think, to get it right. But if we still have to just use the naked eye and say it's always been this way and it's still going to be this way, that's just how we have to, move forward, I guess. So anyway, I just figure I'd throw that out there. Anybody else? Dave, Gary?
I agree with Eric Thomas.
Okay. All right.
My only thing would be it would almost be where they would have to move where they play them at to do it.
Why is that? I think they already have either, and I'm not here to argue with you at all, but what I saw from NFHS, which is who Eric works for, at least for this weekend, once every year, and PCN, even if you just used their broadcast or something, have the cameras set up right where theirs are set up, and you don't get a great replay, then you say it's inconclusive because we don't have a great replay. Sometimes it's going to be conclusive, other times it won't. But what did I miss there, Gary? Why would it have to go?
As far as like with the like moving it to Penn State where they'd have somewhat of the facilities to even make the connections kind of deal.
They're solved. Okay, you're talking about solving the money problem a little bit. Already have the technology in place. Okay, which is what Eric basically alluded to, that they probably will never do it because of having to purchase the technology. Okay.
Well, but guys, the technology, though, keep in mind one thing. Teams now can hook their huddles up, and they can run a big screen TV down on the field to watch a replay on their own sideline. The technology isn't like the location of it is not the issue. The issue is spending the money to outsource it to get a company there that'll do it. There are companies that are bought and paid for by the NCAA that do it. That's not an as far as I know, an NCAA company when they go, when they use it for college basketball, especially in the tournament. At least at the Division II level, the PSAC, that company was outsourced. They were out of, I think, Virginia, and they came up every year to whatever the host site was. So the technology is there. You just basically need a dedicated network to get the feed somewhere that somebody is in the booth. Now, to Gary's point, at Cumberland Valley, do they have the booth space? No, I can assure you of that. But otherwise, it wouldn't take much as far as location to get it done. But you do probably want to have a facility where there can be a dedicated booth for the guys to sit in there with multiple monitors, and Cumberland Valley is not equipped for that right now.
Yep. Yeah, I saw the guy from Pitt Central Catholic who was upset because they didn't have room for him up there, Eric. The guy, the stats guy, he was very angry. Okay, so let's move on. We don't have time to get into that too. That's for another day. Instant replay. Private schools won 4 of 6 titles, and I'm not going there, okay, at all. So don't think that I am. They won in 1A, 4A, 5A, 6A, with Bonner Prendergast, Roman Catholic, and Pope John Paul II emerging. Okay, they're getting better and better every year. Are we dangerously close to the public schools not winning titles in those top 3? I'm not saying never, ever again. But, we have the best 2 teams in 4A this year, arguably, were Bonner Prendergast and Pope John Paul II, who Bonner Prendy beat in the semis or the quarters. The best 2 teams in 5A, McDevitt and Roman Catholic. The best 4 teams in 6A, St. Joe's Prep, LaSalle College, Pitt Central Catholic, and maybe Imhotep, maybe Harrisburg. Harrisburg might have it, but and then if you add in Bishop Guilfoyle in 1A, are we going down a path here with the emergence and the improvement of some of these programs where they're just going to dominate the top 3 classifications, the non-boundary schools?
No, I don't think so.
No.
Well, it's going to be. It is going to be tough next year, but I'm looking next year. I've been pretty on spot, Joe, with my predictions, as you know.
Well, I'm predicting McDevitt wins again next year because they're losing almost nobody.
Yeah, I'm not at that, but it'll be Harrisburg in 6A against LaSalle, Imhotep, or St. Joe's Prep. That's my opinion.
Well, okay. I'll agree with that. But I'm talking about who wins them. And again, if you noticed, I'm not kind of taking sides, and I'm not trying to again go there. Travis, what do you think? Are we getting again? I'll say it again. With the emergence of some of these programs, Roman Catholic used to be just a basketball school. Bonner Prendy, they're just getting better and better. Pope John Paul II. Do you think we're getting kind of dangerously close to the top 3 classifications just being controlled by the non-boundaries?
I think we have to see more of a pattern a little bit longer. This was a year where it was dominated by Catholic schools.
Right.
I think the one thing that of course you don't have the boundary that a lot of public schools have, but I think one thing, and we talked about this, is the changing demographic of some schools where you have some of the traditional powers, but because of changing demographics in those school districts, you don't have as many kids coming out for football. You're not going to necessarily have that issue at a private school because
they can load up their rosters. They don't have
long term.
Correct.
So I think you have to see what happens over the next couple years, because even like I look at St. Joe's Prep, and then you compare them to Pittsburgh Central Catholic. Even Pittsburgh Central Catholic had kids going both ways. It was St. Joe's Prep who has the platooning kids. If you're an offensive player, you're an offensive player. You're a defensive player, you're a defensive player. That's a huge advantage. I don't care what anyone says. That's a huge advantage for a kid because you don't have to learn remember one game plan. You don't have to remember offensive and defensive game plan. If you're practicing offensive tackle, you're practicing offensive tackle all day.
Plus, you're not on the sideline.
Well, in the sidelines.
You talked about that last week. That was a very smart observation opinion.
Yeah, when you want to make adjustments, you think about last year. Think about like a Sean Lee Jr. I mean, he was their top cornerback and quarterback. So how do you talk to your quarterback in between?
Right. Yeah.
Series
sign language.
But my point is that not even all Catholic schools are there, because you had Bishop McDevitt, was it Nazir Jones? Nazir Jones. He's a great running back, but he's also an excellent linebacker as well. He's going both ways. So it's not
right.
So it's not, everyone's not there. And even at 6A level, where Pittsburgh Central Catholic has kids going both ways, I just don't think we're there yet. We'll see.
I'm not even proposing anything here. It was just kind of a question. If I were to propose anything, and I'm not, I'd
like to give you my opinion on real quick. You know what I mean? Okay. Yes, I know that. I think we're surrounded here. I live between New Jersey and Delaware. Delaware, private, public, all play together, but it's open enrollment in that state. Did you guys know that?
Yeah, for public schools, you can go wherever you want.
No, but yeah, they can. A kid from Rehoboth Beach can play up in Wilmington.
Right.
They don't penalize the kids. You can transfer everywhere. That's what we need to do in Pennsylvania. Bottom line, to let the kids.
Well, they're not going to do that just for sports, though. That's a whole. Travis, you're an educator. You're in education. That's not something that's going to lead with sports, right? That would have to do with.
Why is Delaware doing it?
Well, because they do it probably otherwise for the educational piece of it, and the athletic piece also kind of follows along or benefits or piggybacks off of it, I guess, right? Travis, that's probably.
Well, see, here's my thing about that. That's a whole separate issue, even the educational argument. Because I don't want to get into this, but if you follow education at all, that the state of Pennsylvania lost a lawsuit because the funding system in the state of Pennsylvania is unconstitutional and it inherently underfunds schools where that are majority Black and brown. And those are the schools we call them failing, and we want to say they should be able to go to other schools. I'm not going to get into that. I have some very strong feelings about that and how the state of Pennsylvania funds education. I think that's part of the issue right there. But that's a long argument where I don't want to get on a soapbox right now.
Right. Okay, Eric, you got any opinion on this? I know you're a big fan of McDevitt. Well, you're a media member, so let's just say that you respect what McDevitt does and what St. Joe's Prep does, which I do too. What do you think about all this?
I think we're closer to maybe the public schools not winning, but I don't think we're like dangerously close to it. I think the issue is 6 classifications because it waters it down. You wouldn't have all these schools from a private perspective making state finals if we only had 4 classifications in the state like we used to. So that is the number one issue. Just there's the ponds in 1A and 2A and some of these other classes are too thin that, if you have a good team like Bishop Guilfoyle does, then they're going to rise to the top. McDevitt, most of those kids have come through. Stone Saunders is the first wave of that Crusaders youth program, which has taken over the youth football in the Harrisburg area. So, they have a lot of transfers and things too that come in there, and that's gotten to be a pain for some of the administrators there. But I don't think we're like razor thin close to it being that big of an issue. And to what Dave said, I tend to agree. And Travis and I probably agree on what some of his opinions are. And I'd love to talk to him off of this, but I probably would agree with about 90% if I'm thinking the way he is, and I think I am. But I think there should be a school choice too. I think there should be, an open enrollment type of thing. I don't understand, and I've never understood this, where you're going to tell me that every school between 1 and 5 can be punished if they win and have transfers. But there is a wild, wild west in 6A where those schools can just bring anybody they want to in, and they can't go anywhere. That's complete BS, and it needs revamped.
Just last year, Eric, they put out the numbers, okay, and they included 6A, the PIAA. Harrisburg would have moved up to 7A had there been one because of the transfers. St. Joe's Prep would have moved up to 7A.
St. Joe's Prep would be like in 17A by now.
They would be in 17A by now.
But and I know what they do, and I love Tim Rogan. I'm not ripping them for what they do, but it's just the nature of the beast and how the formula is set up. They do whatever they can do within the confines of the system set up, and they do it fine. But if it was just strictly by the book, there'd be like a 9 or 10A right now if we were doing this.
Right.
Here's the thing, and I say this. One thing I will say, and I will take it. I will, and it might be unpopular, but I will have an opinion on this. And when we talk about private schools, I think at the very least, we're talking about the Pennsylvania athletics. All of your kids should live in the state of Pennsylvania. And I would say, and I would even argue that when it comes to sports, if you're a private school, they should either be from that county at least. That might be unpopular, but when you got kids jumping over counties to go to schools, then it's a sports motivated. If they're coming from another county, it's got to be sports motivated.
Yeah, but guys, remember one thing: if you're stuck in Harrisburg, what are your 2 private school options if you're going to a Catholic school? You have McDevitt and you have Trinity.
Right.
I have my best friend was at McDevitt when we started high school, same graduating class, and for certain reasons he was asked to leave McDevitt, and his family has lived in Dauphin County basically our whole lives. They went to Trinity. I don't think there's any issue with that. If your 2 options for a Catholic school are at the time going to be, McDevitt, I guess Lebanon Catholic would have been another option back then. But, I don't have any issue for that standpoint. I don't think that there's any problem crossing the county line if that's your only other option.
Or if not the county line. Now, that's a good point, too, because Harrisburg and Wormleysburg or Lemoyne are a mile away. So just maybe a geographic circle or a certain amount of miles. Again, that's for another show. But I think there's enough to talk. It's interesting enough to talk about it. But we have football to talk about now, guys.
Well, we're very proud down here in Delaware County. We got our first PIAA state championship high school football team in 24 years. Delaware County, we are loaded. Great.
Honor Prendy. We're gonna get to them, and we're gonna lean on you a little bit. The last thing is Chapman Field. I think, Eric, you're there more than anybody. You're not really doing the whole experience because you're not walking around and doing some of the stuff that the rest of us are. But I think they do a superb job. Athletic director Mike Craig and his crew. What do you think about that, Eric?
Best decision they ever made. Hershey Park falling apart, obsolete. Doesn't have the technology
anymore.
Yeah, they Hershey. The people at Hershey could not have given a rat's ass if those stayed or went. They didn't care when they were there. They never took care of us. They treated us like second, third class citizens. It was terrible. Cumberland Valley opens the doors. They have a nice media room set up. They accommodate the teams. They assign a liaison to the teams and make sure that the liaison connects with them right after the semis to get them set up with a practice facility, a chance to, see the campus and kind of know where they're going, especially if they're brand new to the finals like some of these teams were this year. Mike Craig is incredible. Coach O is great.
Yep.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Coach O and his staff and Levi Mumon, those guys are phenomenal. And honestly, I say this as somebody who worked at like calling games at Cumberland Valley for a couple seasons, and part of my heart's been at that place ever since I did that. And, Mike was the AD back then, and Timmy Remfield was the head coach. Like, I love those guys to death, but I honestly hope for at least a 10 to 12-year window they do not leave Chapman Field.
Right. Yeah. I was down there with Travis on the end zone. It's like Travis is kind of like I'm sure you've been there before, but standing on the sideline, it's kind of like a show going on. You know what I mean? Like, there's so much going on, and the music and the noises and the cannons going off and the strobe lights. What do you think of that experience, Travis?
I think it's a great venue for the state championships. I think, and I can't speak to how folks were treated at Hershey when I watched state championships there. I was just kind of up there in the stands, but I will say it's a more intimate venue.
Yeah, it's intimate.
Especially because not as many people attend the games, especially with the games being televised. The weather was really cold, so you don't need a huge stadium for high school games. I think it's the perfect size.
Absolutely. Yep.
And I do think Cumberland Valley does a good job. I think they treat the teams well. And it's just a good venue.
Right off of both of the major tributaries to the west, 81 and the Turnpike. And then
one thing I will say, maybe they need to they got some open land, or maybe put a wall up to get that breeze because it is cold.
Yeah. Oh, well, okay. That's a great segue. And this is the last thing we're going to talk about until we get into the games. And we're on time. I wanted to kind of split it 30 minutes and 30 minutes. Bob Greenberg from Sports Radio 96.7 in Mercer County, Pennsylvania. On Twitter, he posted the attendance numbers. Okay. Now, I don't know where he got them, but they make sense, I think.
They put them on the box score, Joe. They should be right on the box score, the official scoring.
Okay. Yeah, you're right. Thank you. Here are the attendance numbers. First of all, 4 games in 2006. 21,228. So that's 55, just shy of 5,500 fans a game. That was at Hershey, of course. Paid attendance in 2022, 2 years ago, first year at Chapman Field, 15,729. That was with 6 games. Okay. So that's a little over 2,500 a game. Paid attendance in 2024, 10,427. 1A was 1,380, 2A 2,100, 3A 1,800, 4A 1,800, 5A 1,900, and 6A 1,400. I don't think there was 1,400 fans there for 6A. I mean, Eric, you have the best view in the house. I think it was the weather. I think another thing I think is that the Catholic schools or let's just say the non-boundary schools, and it's not because they're non-boundary. It's just because they don't travel well. They don't bring a lot of fans. Even McDevitt, I mean, they were on the big side. I think it's an 8,000 seat venue. I think there's probably 5,000 on the home side and 3,000 on the visitor side. I think McDevitt only had that home side filled up like 2/3. Harrisburg had almost the whole thing. Harrisburg was 2 years ago like 80%, 85%. I took a picture of last night or Friday night, but anyway, it's not about McDevitt. They still were there. They were vibrant. They were loud. They were excited. They had a lot of fun. I'm just making a point here that the people are going away. Gary, you're 47. Does it kind of seem or feel to you like, again, I cover high school football, so I don't want anybody to think I'm blasting it, but does it seem like things are kind of diminishing as when it comes to fans showing up at live for games?
I think it might be a little bit of maybe being on TV, maybe with the weather, and
yeah, that's probably the two most instrumental. And guys, Dave, we lost Eric. Dave and Travis, jump in if you like.
Although I will say that from seeing it on the YouTube replays, Chapman Field does, and I forget who said about the strobe, but with the strobe light saying, with my first immediate thought was the last actual game I've been to at Mansion Park in Altoona with the strobe lights, which is not a bad thing necessarily, especially if you've never seen it before.
Well, I don't think that I'm going to be clear here. I don't think anybody's saying like, oh, I just can't stand going to Chapman Field, because again, we just talked about that, and that was overwhelmingly everything's positive about that place. Yeah, I think what Gary said is both of those things contribute to it. It being on television, NFHS does a great job. PCN does a great job. You don't have to really look much further. And admittedly, I have a press pass, and so did Travis. We didn't go on Thursday. It was cold, man. So anyway, and I don't. It has nothing to do with having to buy a ticket on your phone or on your. You might lose a handful of people, but that's not instrumental, or that's not a major contributor to the diminishing crowds. So.
No, if I could say I
Sure.
don't think it has anything to do with that either. I just think in general, so many games are televised. People can watch them on their phones.
Yep.
You can watch them on your TV with the streaming services. And people just don't attend games. And I think that's something that's been progressively going on for a while. I look at my dad's yearbook, played at John Harris, graduated in 1961, and you look at the attendance. I think their lowest attended game was 4,000. They regularly had 6,000, 7,000, 8,000 people. Right. I remember if there was a big game with Cumberland Valley and Central Dauphin. This was not too long ago. There were 10,000 people.
Yeah.
Harrisburg Steel High back in the day, easily.
Travis, Steel High used to have. I think it's called War Memorial Field, but Cottage Hill, Steel High. They used to have a stadium. They had bleachers the whole way around the
end zone,
yep. Like the whole way around, like a stadium. Right. Not just a field with some bleachers.
And I remember getting to those games, and you had to stand up if you weren't there.
Absolutely, time. Absolutely.
People just aren't. I mean, I think some of it is you can watch it on TV, and there's just so much for people to do now. I'd gone to the days where, gone to the days where like a whole town would clear out to watch a athletic event.
Yeah, even like Port Allegheny and Northwestern Lehigh, some of these smaller schools who you'd think would bring the whole town, and they're going to say that they did and all that, but they didn't, because we just saw the attendance numbers.
No, I'm talking about bringing a whole town where you could rob most of the houses in town.
Right, exactly. Yeah, that's the best time. There's no better time than that.
If any of the games they brought the whole town, it probably would have been the 2A game.
Well, yeah, and the 2A game, let's just look at that one more time. That's 2,100. That was the biggest. That was the most attended game. Gary, you're right. So,
because I caught that they mentioned on the broadcast itself towards the end, the press box was shaking.
Well, it might have been. Yeah, you don't need that place full for people to get riled up and excited and to shake the bleachers. That's for sure. Okay.
Yeah, when you have a town that's supporting, you're going to have a higher attendance.
Yeah. Oh, there's Brad Fenton. Games this weekend were great games. Brad, thanks again for joining us on trivia, and enjoy your banquet tonight. That's who was Gary's competition at the trivia. That dude was something else. Brad, Mike Lawler, that's Lucas Lawler's father. I agree. Streaming and the weather played a factor. Yeah. So again, I'm going to say what I said about when we were talking about the non-boundary. I'm not trying to start any crap here. It is what it is. I was there watching games. Other people were there watching games, and they loved it. I just like to see the stands filled up a little bit. Okay, we're going to move on again. If you're waiting for us to talk about Bishop McDevitt, you're going to have to wait, because we're going to do them last out of respect and out of their great achievement. We're going to kind of crescendo up to McDevitt. Okay, I think the last thing we're going to talk about, this is week 16. We're going to be all done until week 1 next year. We owe it to McDevitt to talk about them last and kind of wrap things up with Bishop McDevitt. So 1A, Port Allegheny, 14-1. They were the first District 9 team of the weekend against Bishop Guilfoyle. They out of District 6, Guilfoyle 41, Port Allegheny 22. Bishop Guilfoyle beat Northern Cambria, Westinghouse, and Muncie leading up to that game, and it was their their fifth win in 6 appearances, 5th championship, and that was Port Allegheny's first appearance. So they're now 0-1. The game was close at the start, 14-0. Bishop Guilfoyle. Then Port Allegheny scored twice, tied it up in the second quarter, and it wasn't close after that. Blowout, 41-22. And anybody else watch that game?
I love Bishop Guilfoyle. Tremendous program, small little school, not that many kids on the team. Port Allegheny, just a fanatical following, and it was just a pretty damn good single-A high school football, if I'm allowed to say that.
Yeah. Again, Port Allegheny, they showed. I think Port Allegheny kind of is one of those teams that benefits from 6 classes. They're not going to probably be in a championship game if there's 4 classes. And the Guilfoyle, maybe not, depending on the year. But they were just a better team. And Travis, we've been together since the start, and I remember when things were kind of shaping up in the middle of the season, maybe week 4 or 5. And there was all those quality 1A schools, Clareton, Westinghouse, of course, Guilfoyle. I said, man, I just kind of like Guilfoyle, and I rode them. I stuck with them, and they got the best. I think they played their best football at the right time. They lost.
I'll say this: when Guilfoyle is good, they're good.
Yeah, exactly.
And they're physical. I remember them several years ago playing Still High in the state playoff game. And they were extremely physical. And honestly, they didn't look like from a physical standpoint, they didn't look like a single-A football team. They were really physical.
No, they're kind of stacked a little better than most single-A teams. I think they end up with. I think one of the reasons that Altoona is just year in and year out such a poor 6A team or program is because Guilfoyle gets a lot of their players. So 1 and 1 equals 2 there. You know what I mean? It's not hard to figure that out.
Yeah, I wasn't real surprised with Guilfoyle. I watched the live stream version of the district title game. Once Guilfoyle gets rolling, it's just. Yes,
exactly. And they got rolling, and you're exactly right. That's what happened. It was 14-14 at some point in the second quarter, the beginning or the middle of the second quarter, and Guilfoyle got rolling. Is all it was. Guilfoyle won an appeal back in January to drop from 2A to 1A. They were supposed to start the season at 2A. They contested the legality of transfers. PIAA, I guess, deemed that they had some transfers that were football or sports motivated. They said, "Oh no, they aren't. No, they weren't." And so they were able to stay down at 1A. And things change. If Guilfoyle's in 2A, things change. So they benefited from winning that appeal. And I'm sure they probably should have won it. I'm not contesting that they won the appeal, but so District 9 came in 0-3 in title games. This is the second time I'll mention that. Along with the next game, the Central Clarion also losing. They're 0-5 now. But it was great to see 2 District 9 teams. So congratulations to Bishop Guilfoyle and the Marauders. That's a good football name, right? The Marauders.
Yep.
I kind of like that.
Joe Landolfi, athletic director. He was a member of when they separated public and private. In boys basketball, Bishop Guilfoyle, 1967 state champs. They call it the Pennsylvania Interscholastic Cat League.
And that was Bill Gaffey, the head coach of that team.
Yep,
Guilfoyle. Bill Gaffey's the only coach I know that had a private school and a public school as a boys basketball head coach championship, because he ended up winning with Susquehanna Township years later. I think 1980 maybe. You would know.
He was my geography teacher in high school.
I heard he was beloved. Like everybody said, I loved Mr. Gaffey. Great teacher. I loved being in class with him. And so, okay.
Well, working with those guys, the Gaffey boys, for years, as when I ended up Pennsylvania high school hoops, the Big 60 shootout at Spooky Nook. So it's a lot of fun.
We'll get him on the show.
Mike?
We'll get Mike on the show.
Joe Landolfi, hell of a job, athletic director at BG.
Okay. All right. So 2A. We had District 4 representative this year, not Southern Columbia, out of District 4, Troy, who came in 15-0. Central Clarion came in 14-0. They were District 9. And Troy won the game 25-24. What a game. I mean, you kind of have to recalibrate the way you watch games when you're watching like the way that McDevitt and Roman Catholic and St. Joe's Prep and all that. These are different types of football games, okay? I don't want to say more smash mouth, but they kind of rely on smash mouth as opposed to, the speed and the quickness to a pretty good degree. Troy came in after having beaten Warrior Run, Bedford, and Riverside in the first 3 rounds. Their first win in their first finals appearance, and Central Clarion's now 0-1. So something had to give. One school had to win for the first time ever, and it was Troy. Troy was kind of Travis. We talked about him every week, and I didn't know a whole lot about him. They were kind of like the favorite, or they became the lead 2A team early on, and they just never gave up. Right? They never relented.
I saw them before. I saw them in person. I announced.
Oh, you did see them in person, yeah.
4-hour trip all the way down to Wilmington, Delaware, at the Pigskin Classic at Salesianum High School, and they played Dover, Delaware, who's had great programs over the years. 6A school, like 60, 70 kids on the roster. They were only 2-8 this year, Dover, but they were still athletic, and it was an 8-3 final score with Troy winning the game, and you could just tell they were not intimidated at all playing a team like Dover, Delaware, who is a speed to burn. So I saw right away, wow, it's going to be tough to beat those guys.
Right, yeah. So District 4 has now won 8 straight 2A championships. Of course, the first 7 were Southern Columbia. The last time a non-District 4 team won in 2A was Steel Valley in 2016. Facebook message. So that was a while ago.
Yeah, I think both teams came in undefeated, but honestly, the way Troy was rolling people all season and through the playoffs, I didn't think it was going to be close. So
neither did I.
And it was an excellent game.
Central Clarion was doing a lot of the same thing up there in District 9 too.
Yeah.
They were the equivalent of Troy in their area.
Their semifinal game, I think, was 55-0 on South Park.
Yeah, you're right. No, that's a great point, Gary. Central Clarion had their own version of what Troy was doing.
Yeah,
they were just old people. We just were kind of following Troy a little more.
Yeah, it's a little biased, bias
towards
Troy. So
Troy running back Brendan Gilliland, 25 carries for 142 yards, two rushing touchdowns, and a 20-yard touchdown reception. He was one of the top players out of the whole weekend.
Central Clarion, Jace Ferguson, I think, for Central Clarion, he's in that conversation.
Big game. 17-24 quarterback here. 17-24, 189 yards, 2 touchdown passes, and his wide receiver Ethan Rex caught 7 balls for 79 yards and 2 touchdown receptions. So yeah, you're right about that, Gary. and let's face it, that was a tough. Thursday and Friday were very difficult to pass because of the wind, and the wind was swirling. Okay, you're just when you think it's behind you, it's coming at you or coming sideways, and that's not easy as a quarterback to throw through that wind. So,
and that last drive and that field goal attempt at the end, he didn't miss that one by much.
We're going to talk about that right now, Gary. Central Clarion place kicker Thomas Uckert came into the game 61 of 61 in point after touchdowns, extra point kicks, 5 of 5. He hadn't missed a kick all year. 5 of 5 field goals, a long of 40 yards. He missed a point after touchdown, an extra point kick, and then a 50-yard field goal as time expired. He had the distance on the field goal attempt. I think he might have just tried to use too much leg, and that's what happens. Sometimes the kicker doesn't trust their mechanics. It looked like it had a little bit of a hook, which the same thing can happen when you overswing on a golf club. And it's a tough kick to try to make. That's an NFL kick or an NCAA college football kick, 50 yards. But he stepped up and it was just a little left. So that's it. That's 2A in the book so far. We have Bishop Guilfoyle in 1A and Troy in 2A. We're going to move on to 3A. And if Dave Zeiser's watching, or my friend Dave, he's a District 11 guy. So I mentioned a handful of times leading up to this that they hadn't won in 14 years.
Yep.
District 11. And years ago, I think Parkland might have won twice in 4A. So they have good football up there. It's just they run into some really tough semifinal matchups. So this is another really good close game. Northwestern Lehigh finished the season 16-0. Avonworth at a District 7 finishes the season 12-4 with the loss, 36-33 in overtime. Northwestern Lehigh had beaten Conwell, Egan, Scranton Prep, and Danville in the 3 prior rounds to get to that game. And it was Northwestern Lehigh's first win in 2 finals games. They lost to Bell Vernon in 2023, just last year. Avonworth now is 0-2 in finals. They lost in 2019, 74-7 to Southern Columbia. And they were leading 7-0 in that game, by the way. So it was 74 unanswered points. Anybody watch that game?
I have to be honest, I did not see that.
Let me tell you guys something.
So a lot of highlights you got all over Twitter and Facebook.
We were just talking about like the kind of the 3 yards in a pile of dust. Actually, it's more than 3, but kind of that scrum type of football, that Cole region, or Luca Neal from Avonworth, 36 carries, 252 yards and 4 touchdowns in a losing effort. I hate to even attach the word losing to that effort.
Yeah.
And then there's a young man by the name of Eli Zimmerman for Northwestern Lehigh. He's kind of their guy, their go-to. He does it all. Offense, he's a tailback, and he's a really good defensive player. He was 29 carries for 123 yards, 3 touchdowns, and he had a really big defensive play, stripped the ball from the Avonworth player late in the game. So just an enjoyable game to watch, man. That's to me, and it's not that the other games aren't football. But it just feels like football, like the way it used to be played, the way it was kind of drawn up. And I'm happy for Northwestern Lehigh. I'm happy for District 11, man. That's, between Troy never having won one and now kind of like the balloon or the pimple getting popped there with District 11, that's 2 kind of significant, meaningful wins out of the first 3 classes.
The first public school because it was Central Catholic. It's just that Allentown Central Catholic beat Bishop McDevitt 28-27 back in 2010.
Yes.
The last public school from District E11, Liberty High School from Bethlehem, Concrete Charlie's alma mater of the Eagles. You remember Concrete Charlie, number 60. 2008, Liberty beat Bethel Park in overtime in a classic, 28-21.
Dave. That's great information.
Thank you.
I'm always reminded why I bring you on here, Dave. That was the quality right there, buddy.
Well, I want to thank you guys at a free website, EasternPAFootball.com. Also, Billy Spleen and his gang, all free articles. They use our advertisers. I love those guys. Thank you, PA Football News and Eastern PA Football News.
Yep, both do a great job. Yeah, I saw both of the owner operators at the games. Okay, let's move on to 4A. This is the one that you have a little more knowledge maybe than the rest of us, Dave, because they're from down your way. Out of District 12, Bonner Prendergast 40, Lampeter Strasburg 14. The Cinderella ride's over for Lamp. I don't know. It wasn't a Cinderella ride. They had a Cinderella win in the semifinals over Thomas Jefferson. But what a quality team, Lampeter Strasburg. They just ran into maybe the quickest, fastest team in the whole weekend. I mean, really. I'm not saying that, but Bonner Prendy could go up against St. Joe's Prep, but they played a lot of good teams this year at Bonner Prendy, and they were fast and quick. Travis, did you watch that game at all?
Yes, I did.
Didn't they really look like they were getting to the ball and getting to the players with the ball, and
they were, and it's interesting because if you remember last week, I said it. I thought actually that Lampeter Strasburg would control the line of scrimmage and win, and I don't think they didn't do a bad job on the line of scrimmage. I think the difference was, it was kind of a wash. It was kind of even there. But, when it's even across the line of scrimmage, the athletes are going to win out. And
right.
And Bonner had a few more athletes.
Correct.
I mean, there were times when, you think a kid from Lampeter Strasburg makes a nice tackle, and boom, the kid's breaking a tackle, he's spinning out of a tackle.
Right.
A lot of yards after contact. And I think just the athleticism of Bonner was the difference.
Yeah, they beat Roman Catholic earlier this year, 38-30. And so that was a wake-up call there. Then LaSalle College beat them 35-13. St. Joe's Prep, its form here. St. Joe's Prep beat Bonner 49-14. And that's their only 2 losses this year, guys. They took care of business. And you said, you saw Pope John Paul, private school in Royersford, Montgomery County, Joe. And Bonner took care of them 35-7. Jack Molden, an absolute Delco legend. And I get in trouble when I say the small town of Drexel Hill. It's right next to Upper Darby.
I used to live there when I was a kid.
Drexel Hill. And,
Yeah.
Bonner getting kids, from they pride on trying to get them from Upper Darby, Delaware County. But that was anyway. So, hey, congrats to Bonner.
Dominic Brown, the Lampeter Strasburg running back, he had like 202 or 205 yards rushing against Thomas Jefferson in the semifinals. Lampeter Strasburg had a total of 196 yards from scrimmage against Bonner Prendy. So, you can win a game with only 200 yards total offense if you control the field in terms of creating short fields for yourself and maybe getting a couple of turnovers, but it wasn't that kind of game. Bonner Prendy had 363 yards of total offense. Mick Johnson, their running back, had 111 yards. And I was impressed by this. Noel Campbell, the quarterback for Bonner Prendy, and this is when the win was pretty bad. He was 13-21 for 162 yards.
Yeah, I wanted to mention that real quick. He's a small kid.
Yeah.
His arm, he's a rocket arm.
Yeah, man.
He can throw that football. And he knows, and it's like they always say, you don't have to throw over people. You're throwing in the passing lanes.
Right.
He finds those passing lanes that he can zip the football.
Yeah. So I was impressed. Typically that stat line's not going to blow anybody away, but let me tell you, it was windy when that game was going on for sure. And I think Lampeter Strasburg kind of fell victim to, or if that may be a bad way of putting it, but they were kind of last year's Dallas. Remember when Dallas had that huge win over McDevitt and then just got crushed by Aliquippa? It's hard to bring that same level of energy and back a week later. So great season for Lampeter Strasburg.
Campbell's only a sophomore.
Is he really?
And through 13 games, you're talking about 2,517 yards, And he did have 8 interceptions, but 27 touchdowns. So it shows you how good St. Joe's Prep was. Thank goodness they are not allowed in the PIAA. Oh, I'm sorry, they are allowed in the PIAA state tournament. It goes. I'm being sarcastic. Anyway, so Campbell. I remember you guys earlier in the year we were following a thread, and you were saying this Campbell guy's just a little guy. Well,
Yeah, it doesn't matter, man. Athletes are athletes, Bonner Prendy's only 2 losses. They finished 12-2. Were to LaSalle College and St. Joe's Prep. That's tough having to play those teams when you're a much smaller team, because they were a much smaller team, roster wise and physical. Just they were smaller. So congratulations, Bonner Prendy's first win in first appearance ever, and Lampeter Strasburg, heck of a season, heck of a run. I don't know what else to say
for any Bonner Prendy team in any sport.
Oh wow.
Team with Isaiah Wong came close back in 2009, but lost to, take a guess, in the state final, Imhotep.
Okay. All right. So let's, again, if you're a McDevitt person or just a local high school football person waiting to hear a little bit about McDevitt, we're going to kind of leapfrog them. We're going to finish with them. So this is by design. We just wanted to kind of finish off our last show talking about our local state champion team. So let's go to St. Joe's Prep. This is 6A, by the way. St. Joe's Prep 35, Pitt Central Catholic 6. It was kind of a blowout. It wasn't like St. Joe's Prep just kept scoring. They only scored 1 touchdown in the second half, St. Joe's Prep. Pitt Central Catholic kind of played their hearts out, I think. They really did. I know they did. It's just different. St. Joe's Prep's so good, they kind of had him stiff-armed. You know what I mean? Like, okay, we're up 4 touchdowns. And then I guess 28-6 is what it was for quite a while. But we're not going to let you get any closer. That's just the way it's going to be. Mike Lawler, I've already – I don't know if you heard me. I already said McDevitt's going to win again next year. They have too many returning players. He's watching. That's Lucas Lawler's dad. Yeah, we're going to finish with predictions for next year. So I'm sorry. St. Joe's Prep got there by virtue of beating Imhotep 42-0, Parkland 46-7, and then Downingtown West 36-7. I think they could have scored 60 against Downingtown West.
Downingtown West played hard, Joe. I was going to bring that.
I know.
I was the announcer. I was the public address guy. I was right there, and they played their tails off. But the defense, we knew coming into this year, my buddy Bob Long at Bob Long Sports, he said the Prep defense is loaded, but the offense is young. And the offense got better as the year went on with Charlie Folk. I know we were busting his chops a little bit throughout the year, but boy, did he get better. And they got Jet Harrison back for 3 more years. So, yeah.
I didn't bust his chops, Dave. I said he's only a sophomore. Give him a break.
I was a little tough on him. I said.
Yeah, a bunch of people were really tough on him.
Now it's all out there. But, yeah, we're talking on our thread or our phone. I said, boy. But, hey, they beat – they should have – they easily could have beaten LaSalle twice this year, So,
oh, boy.
Hell of a Tim
I
Rowe.
think I don't know if Tim Rowe loses any sleep over that still, especially after he just beat them back on November 9th. But, yeah, they lost the game because they didn't go for a field goal. But anyway.
Boy O'Brien, the receiver, for, by the way, LaSalle, he's a hell of a basketball player too. So keep an eye on LaSalle this year.
Okay.
Yeah,
I was on the sideline for this game. And things are always, gentlemen, they're always different when St. Joe's Prep's on the field, okay? And what I mean is, I took a buddy of mine a couple years ago when they played Harrisburg, and my buddy had been to a lot of high school football games. He's in his 40s or 50s, and he said to me, he looked over at me after like 2 minutes, and he goes, "That's different. That just looks different." And he was talking about, Travis, you know where I'm going with it. The physicality, this quickness, the speed, it just looks different out there. I was talking to a gentleman from Big 33, John Weaver from Big 33. He said he watched when they were doing the pregame with the stations. You have the running backs, the wide receivers. He said St. Joe's Prep had 21 offensive linemen and 17 defensive linemen. That's 38 in stations. I mean, can you imagine being that prepared with personnel
Well, that's what I was saying. That they look like if they look like a college program when they come out, because again, you have single way players, players that are preparing for one game plan, one position. That's all they're doing, and it's going to be really hard for anyone to compete with that. Even a Pittsburgh Central Catholic, who was a private school in Pittsburgh, a large city, but if you're not bringing that many kids to the party, and where you have kids that are so good that you only need to have a kid going both ways. And I know they have kids who could play both ways, but it's not needed. It's a great advantage if they don't have to. It's going to be tough for anyone to beat.
Yeah, there's no doubt. And like McDevitt's I don't really want to look ahead, but I will. They're going to have to play in 6A here, not this coming year because that's the second year of the cycle, but they'll be moved up, and then they're going to have to, if they get to that point, get that far, they'll have to play against St. Joe's Prep, and then everything just changes. The best McDevitt teams and the best every school's teams just don't measure up. You had a once in a lifetime. They had 2 District 7 teams that beat them. And Mount Lebanon was kind of one of those once in a lifetime. What I was told, the kids all played together since they were 7 or 8 years old. They were almost all seniors or mostly seniors, and they were actually the favorites, I think, going into that 2021 game.
That was a great high school football.
Yeah, it was. Yeah,
you're not going to see that often.
No. And then Pine Richland in 2017 had the top quarterback, or one of the top quarterbacks in the country. Was it Phil? Was it Jurkovic or Jerkovic?
Jerkovic.
Jerkovic. So yeah, sometimes there are extenuating circumstances, but it's going to be tough for anybody to beat St. Joe's Prep. They had their best offensive lineman out. They have his name written down here. Maxwell Roy. He came in for one play. He came in the last play of the game, and when they were kneeling on the ball just to get him on the field. He's going to Ohio State. He's out recovering from an injury. I guess he's, for the most part, recovered, or else they wouldn't have put him out there for that one play. They were without their best offensive lineman, and you couldn't tell.
Well, we even think of this, even to get to a state, when you go through the playoffs, the number of games that you're playing, it's attrition. You're gonna lose guys to injury. Guys are gonna be hurt. If you're playing less snaps, you're less chance of injury.
Right.
So even though this kid was hurt, you're most likely you're gonna be healthier than other teams.
Another great point.
And another kid they missed after Game 5, he got hurt for the rest of the year. Ohio State recruit running back Isaiah West.
Wow, boy.
Isaiah about half the season too, but you saw what Kai did.
Kai Billups, he's 80-yard rush right up the middle on the first play of the game. He ended up with 228 yards and 3 rushing touchdowns on 29 carries. That dude was quick. He was fast. He had big holes. And even when he didn't have big holes, man, he had great vision. That was the first thing I mentioned after we saw him kind of running all over the place for a while. I said, what vision he has? And the guy next to me said, yeah, but he's got these big holes. And I said, oh, that's true too. But I said, even when he doesn't, he gets through there. So
I'll tell you what, the kid who I was really impressed with, actually the running back from Pittsburgh Central Catholic, I thought he played a heck of a game.
Yeah. And then that Jair Walls, their quarterback, I mean, stats-wise, it wasn't a great game statistic-wise for Walls. 12 of 38. He had a 1-yard touchdown plunge or dive. But, man, it's the pressure just unbelievable, man, when you're going up against that front seven from St. Joe's Prep.
What'd you think of Anthony Sacca up front, up close? Where you've seen him before?
I had seen him before. He's not – the thing about him is he doesn't have like that really huge, where he's just tall and put together, man. He looks like he can – well, we're going to see. He's going to be I think he'll be in the NFL in 4 years or 5 years.
Yeah. Well, think about it. We got one backer going to Notre Dame and one going to Penn State.
Right. Exactly. Yeah,
you remember his dad, right? Tony Sacca?
Absolutely. Yeah.
He was quarterback the last time Penn State beat the number 1 team in the country. That was Notre Dame in 1990, featuring our buddy Ricky Waters from Harrisburg, McDevitt.
Yep.
Or McDevitt, I'm sorry, Lower Paxton Township.
No, not Ricky. Ricky was from uptown Harrisburg.
Yeah, then he
No,
moved
yeah,
to Cincinnati Township.
McDevitt. Oh yeah, McDevitt was.
Now, Micah Parsons was kind of like a Linglestown kid for many years. That's why, if that's who you're thinking of.
No, I meant that McDevitt. People were busting my chops the other day. Now they're in Lower Paxton Township.
Oh,
McDevitt, but back then they were in the city of Harrisburg.
is that Lower Paxton or Swidara? I don't know, but your point is it was well taken. Yeah,
A
I think
lot.
Swidara Township is like Rutherford.
The love for Harrisburg City, but anyway, go ahead.
St. Joe's Prep have won 9 title games now by an average of 27 points per game. So they're averaging a blowout. They're averaging 4 touchdowns wins per game. And let's talk about this, guys. This is great. To me, this is interesting. Was the state championship game back on November 9th when LaSalle College and St. Joe's Prep played? Now, I know we're going to say, well, no, you got to play it out and all that. I get that. They were the 2 best teams in the state, weren't they?
Yeah.
21 to 15.
Yeah.
It was. It just, yeah. And it's got to be that way. You can't put them opposite each other in the brackets, and not that LaSalle's this good every year, but that was the state championship day. They're the 2 best teams. I thought obviously you have Pitt Central Catholic. We'll put them in at 3rd, and then probably Harrisburg 4th. I would think they're very close to.
Yeah, I was got to go Harrisburg 4 because Harrisburg really. I was talking to Sean Lee Sr. today. I actually saw him at the store, and we were just talking. Harrisburg really could have won that, and probably should have beat Pittsburgh Central Catholic.
No doubt. They're kind of
top to bottom. They were a better team.
Yeah. Only reason I have to put Central Catholic 3rd is because they won the game. Okay, but that was a 50-50. Yeah. So now that we're talking about 6A football, great job to Coach Cal Everett and his guys. Got to throw that in there one more time. Here's one more number before we move on to McDevitt. Entering the game, St. Joe's Prep had given up 1.1 yards per carry on the season.
Yep.
So if you ran the ball 11 times on them or 10 times on them, you were getting 11 yards basically. That's unbelievable. And they Central Catholic averaged 2.7 yards per carry. So we're talking about the 3rd best team or maybe 4th, whatever, in the state, averaged 2.7 yards per carry. So that's an incredible number, man. In 14 games or 13 games, 1 yard a carry. That's how you win games. That's how you win championships. Anybody else want to say anything else about Gary? What do you think of St. Joe's Prep, buddy? We're not trying to keep you out here.
I don't know enough about District 12 whatsoever to say one thing or the other.
Well, they're very good. That's just.
You better start following, man. You better start following.
Okay. Here we go. Drum roll, please. Bishop McDevitt out of District 3. They were the 6th seed out of District 3, which we know they were the best team going in, and seedings are done by who beats who and all that stuff. They had lost 2 games. So anyway, Roman Catholic was the 1 seed out of District 12, and this game went into overtime, 34-31 on the worst made field goal ever. It was actually deflected. I don't know if you call that blocked or deflected, but it went through, and that's all that matters. I'll tell this really quick story. My friend Shane Griffiths, he was a place kicker for Central Dauphin back in the early 90s, and they went up to Berwick.
Morgan State.
Yes, absolutely. They went up to Berwick, and Shane was a good kicker. He was a 4-year starter, D1 at Morgan State, and they had a last-second field goal attempt. He said it was like 31 or 32 yards, which is that's a chip shot. And he even said it was a chip shot, one of the easiest. And his foot hit the ground before the inside of his foot hit the ball, and the ball went straight up in the air and hit the crossbar and went over. So sometimes these aren't pretty. We know that, right? And that kick was not pretty, but it went through. It got the job done. And McDevitt, congratulations on their 3rd title game. They also won in 95 and 2022. They beat Mechanicsburg 26-14, Exeter Township 48-14, and Pine Richland 28-14 to get there. They were really never challenged. I don't think too much all season, except for this game here against Roman, and then the games they lost. Of course, they were challenged, but even the Pine Richland game, I used the term stiff arm earlier. They kind of had Pine Richland stiff arm the whole game. They were never in it. I picked McDevitt from the beginning. I never kind of rescinded on that. I just felt like they were the most talented team. They were loaded with talent, and it was theirs to lose. They had to win that title because I was surprised I had them winning that game against Roman on Friday by 3 touchdowns. And again, we know that I'm wrong a lot, but I thought they were much more talented. I thought Roman had some athletes. Okay. So Travis, you're probably thinking I'm nuts where I'm going with this. I think McDevitt had more good athletes. I think Roman relied on just a few guys where McDevitt could kind of shuffle them in and out. And, but that was Roman's first appearance, and they freaking showed up and they played really, really well. So it was a fun game to be at. My first thought, and Travis, you and I were standing next to each other, was how small Roman was up front. McDevitt was just a lot bigger. And, we talked about it at the game that, you have to have your mechanics have to be really good when you're giving up that much weight. But their offensive linemen look kind of like, they didn't look like D-backs, but they kind of look like linebackers. They didn't look like offensive linemen. You agree, Travis?
Yeah, their center was really small. Their defensive line was small. They actually looked like they had a kid playing tackle. He looked more like a defensive end. Looked like he's a good athlete, but he's playing on the inside. It's like, I can't see what.
Kind of thin, yeah.
When they came out, I was like, oh boy, they look small, and I was like, okay, this is going to be McDevitt's going to run this ball down their throat. And actually, McDevitt did start to run the ball down their throat, and then Roman kind of locked in and played pretty good against the run. But then McDevitt ran the ball, at times really good.
Right.
But I'll tell you what I thought the difference. And now I will say I do think McDevitt did have more athletes as well.
I guess more is the word. I'm not trying to take anything away from those athletic kids from Roman.
Yeah. McDevitt's. Here's a couple of things. I think Roman had good athletes, but I think McDevitt had good athletes and they were football players.
Right.
And I think there's a difference. You can be a good athlete, but not necessarily a great. I'm not saying these kids from Roman aren't great football players.
No, I know what you're saying.
These kids from McDevitt are athletes and football players.
Right.
But I think the biggest difference in the game was actually a quarterback. As good as the kid is from Roman, he missed. He got a kid who dropped a pass on him, but he missed a couple guys with accuracy.
Right.
And Stone Saunders made some incredible throws. I remember in the fourth quarter, Roman got heat on him, and he's throwing off his back foot. I'm thinking he's going to throw it away, and he drops it right into someone, and it's clear he has, in 4 years, he has so much knowledge of that offense. He knows exactly where everyone's going to be. So if he gets in trouble, he knows exactly where to throw. He did it a couple of times. He did it on both ends of the field, big third down plays where it's like, his knowledge of that offense.
That was the difference of the game.
Absolutely.
There's no doubt about it.
And I'm going to say this, also, McDevitt's defensive line, you got, and I hope I can say this, at defensive end, McDevitt has 2 grown-ass men out there. One of them is a senior, and one of them is a freshman.
Sophomore.
No, I think
88's a sophomore.
Is it Dennis?
Or Dennis junior. 88's a junior. I'm sorry.
I said Teron Dennis is a freshman, isn't he? I'm pretty sure he's a freshman.
Okay, you're probably right. Yeah, no, I'm sorry.
I could be wrong. I could be
88,
wrong.
He's a junior.
88's the tight. Yeah, I just
defensive end. Yeah.
But to Roman's credit, even they were outmanned from a size wise. They used their quickness. They got in the gaps. They created some negative plays, for McDevitt. But again, Stone Saunders did when you have not just a quarterback, but really understands the offense, when to get rid of the ball, where to put the ball, it makes a huge difference. And that definitely was the difference in the game, I thought.
And then that drop pass, and that doesn't mean McDevitt, it was 2:44 left when the ball was dropped.
Oh, I think McDevitt could have came right down and scored it.
They could have, yeah. So, I mean, who knows? But that was tough. And that's part of football. I mean, there's misses, there's drops, they're in every sport. But that was just a shame for Roman Catholic. I mean, the ball was kind of like right there, almost breadbasket, a little bit off of breadbasket. But
even McDevitt's, I don't know if it's their first or second touchdown, the defensive back was right there. And
Right.
if he just mistimed his
Right.
jump, it should have been intercepted. At the very least, knocked down. It turns into a touchdown.
I thought Roman really kind of showed up. I was surprised the game was that close. And you only have to win by a point. And McDevitt won by 3.
I was too. McDevitt, I thought, even though it was an overtime game,
Yeah.
I thought McDevitt was the better team.
21-3 lead. I was on the sidelines, guys, with Eric Epler. When I saw you, a bunch of press guys were over there, and I was barking McDevitt by 3 touchdowns. McDevitt, and they were all looking at me like I was nuts. And then when it got up to 21-3, and it was still 21-3 in the third quarter, I was like, you know what? I think I might have nailed this one. And then lo and behold, things changed for the better for Roman Catholic. McDevitt rushing, Nazir Jones-Davis, 35 carries for 124 yards. 124, that's a lot of yards. That's on 35 carries. So they kind of D'd him up a little bit. He had a touchdown. Receiving Jonte Quick, 6 for 129 and a touchdown. Dominic Diaz-Ellis, 3 for 77 and a touchdown. Stone Saunders didn't set the world on fire in this postseason at all, but he didn't have to. Just so efficient. 19 for 26.
He came to play on Saturday on Friday night. That's
right. You better believe it. 19 to 26, an interception. That was a deflected pass. He had 2 touchdowns passing, and he's so big. When they get down there like to the 1.5, they just let him keep the ball most of the time. He had a 1-yard rushing touchdown. For Roman Catholic, JoJo Delechi, 20 carries for 100 yards. Receiving Rayshawn Scott, 6 for 74 and a touchdown. Then Samaj Beals, the quarterback. I tell you what, it was a shame how that had to end up. He was 13 of 33 with 2 interceptions, 139 yards. But he went out in overtime with let's call that a horrendous cramp. I mean, I think it was just a cramp. But sometimes they can stretch it out and they can get you back in there. Sometimes they can't.
Well, when he went out, I knew the game was over.
I knew the game was over too because that backup quarterback, he wasn't ready for prime time.
No, I made the comment. The ending was anticlimactic.
Yeah, it really was. He kind of knew
it was a done deal when he went out.
Yeah, especially when McDevitt has a very good defense. It wasn't like that kid was going to come in and do something crazy or fool McDevitt, or they were ready to close that game out.
Because the thing is, Roman Catholic did a lot of RPO, and Bills, he really read that well, and you could tell he did the same thing with the kid that came and replaced him, and he would seem like he was just lost. I wanted to make one more comment, and you mentioned his name, Jonte Quick, and a perfect name for his skill set because he's quick. And I all season I thought this was a little kid, and he walks by me, I'm like, he's not that little. And I'm watching him play, and he's out there, and I'm thinking, okay, he's going to get the ball, they're going to tackle him. He's out there breaking tackles. He's a problem in the slot.
And he's what, a sophomore?
I think he's a freshman. He might be a freshman. I don't know.
Well, I'm going to tell you,
Samaj Beal, he comes back. One more year to go for him, so he'll be a quarterback. I got to give a shout to Jeff Wechter, the pride of. I don't know if you guys knew this or not. He's a
Lebanon Catholic. Started. What's that?
He's from Lidditz. Yep. He's a Warwick High School grad, Jeff.
Yeah.
1983, Jeff Wechter, 27 years in the books now, 261 wins, only 71 losses, 12 District 3 titles, 6 state championship appearances, and 2 PIAA state titles.
Right.
Jeff.
Congratulations, Jeff Wechter. Coach Jeff Wechter. So I said it a while back. I know they're losing Saunders. I know they have another really good quarterback. I was going through and trying to figure out who they're losing, and it kind of turned into the opposite. Like who they're keeping, who's not a senior, is so overwhelmingly more than what they're losing. I don't know. I'm kind of having a hard time articulating. They're not losing much, guys. This team is ready to repeat, especially because they have one more year in 5A before they move up to 6A. I'm not accounting for offensive line, and there's probably some players that they're losing that I'm not accounting for. But I mean, they got to be the favorite. I'm picking them. Let's talk about who we like going into next year. If you have teams that you want to.
Well,
pick.
the quarterback for McDevitt, he's two of the brothers that came up from Columbia last year. Columbia,
right. They were ineligible last year,
right?
And now they're eligible this year. That's Lancaster County, right? Columbia.
Yep, Columbia. Gary Sutton.
Yeah, they're from Lancaster County. So we don't have time to get into why. I'm just telling you, McDevitt's going to be loaded again next year. Maybe better than this year. I don't know. Maybe not. But good enough to win another state championship. That's for sure.
Maybe they'll bump 6A.
They can't because we're still in this. Next year's the second year of the classification. There's cycles, and they'll be reevaluated next year, and they'll because they're going to win another district for sure.
A lot of championship appearances.
Yeah, they'll get one more year at 5A. Anybody else? Travis, you look like you want to say.
I'll say this. You got to make McDevitt will come out open the season #1 in the state. And you don't just replace Stone Saunders, though. I'll say that. But you got two hammers coming back at running back.
Right.
So
exactly.
whoever plays quarterback is going to be to ease into that.
Right.
Because they're going to be to run the football.
Right.
I just how fortunate you guys are out there in 717 with high school football between Steel High, 5 PIAA state championships, McDevitt now with 3, Central Dolphin with another. And Harrisburg needs to join that list. They're 0 for 3 in the PIAA state championship.
They're in a tough spot. I mean, I was chatting quickly with Donnie Ross, Coach Don Ross today, and we were talking about I don't know specifically what we were talking about, but it turned into this. District 3 is fortunate that they don't have to play District 12 in the semis, or they would not have one. Harrisburg's gone twice, 2018 in 6A, and then
once in 5A.
Yeah, once in 5A, and then 2022 again, and Central Dolphin once, Central York once. This is all since 2018. None of those teams would have got by St. Joe's Prep. So
our team's Delaware County, so you have to
kind of fortunate. Yeah, you guys, the District 11 and District 1, they catch the bad end of that whole situation.
Yeah, District 11 is the quarterfinals, and the Delaware County District 1 or Chester County is the.
Next year, Harrisburg, it might be their best team ever. The most talented team ever. They're the same as McDevitt. They return almost everyone. We did talk about they're losing a handful of players that are kind of real important to their team and their chemistry and their leadership guys. But guys, we know, Travis, you know who we're talking about here.
Yeah.
Watch out for State College. They told me, assistant coach Bainey, we're going to be right in the mix again.
And then 2 years from now, McDevitt's going to have to play in they're already in the Commonwealth, but they're going to have to play through District Class 6A in District 3. That could change things, mix things up a bit.
Yeah, here's the thing I like about Harrisburg next year is the depth that they've created on their line. Luke not having Kevin Brown, pretty much the whole. You got to think about this. Kevin Brown didn't play against McDevitt or State College, and that was Jayon Lewis's first 2 starts as a quarterback. He didn't play. They're kind of finding their way. But I'm just going to agree that it's. I would not be surprised if Harrisburg gets to the 6A final, but it's just a tough task.
Oh, I got him in the finals. I got him in the finals.
They are going to be really talented on offense. I think they'll be good. I can't see anyone being as good as that team.
State College loaded up, man. But that'll be fun next year. State College got to keep an eye on them. Again,
I haven't seen a team in a while be as good defensively as that Harrisburg team that lost to Central Catholic in the state semifinal. I think it was like 08 or something like that. Lost the game, held Central Catholic to about 150 yards total offense.
Yeah, 14-6. I was there.
Well, the one player for McDevitt, Lucas Lawler, they have to replace. He's a senior. He's kind of, and they don't play the same position, but he's kind of this team's Riley Robel. Yeah. Did I get that name right? They both were wrestlers.
Yeah.
They both were wrestlers, and what we're doing and what we do week in and week out is we talk about the skill position players, and that's what most people do. But I just want to shout out Lucas Lawler because he was kind of McDevitt's guy in terms of if you want to say who epitomized McDevitt defensively this year, like Robel I thought did 2 years ago. It probably was Lucas Lawler. I'm sure
you don't want to say Riley Robel with Alec Quipper guys because he was a game wrecker for sure.
Woo-wee, man, he was good. Yeah.
Is this our last show for football?
Yes, this is our last show. So let's see, Gary. Talk about. Let's bring you back in, buddy. Who out your way do you think is going to be any good next year? I know that is such a broad question.
Actually, one of the conversations, I forget which one it was. I glanced through the brackets a little bit, and like, if there was somebody that wasn't in this year that I thought could do some damage next year, I actually came up with a championship prediction for all 6 classes.
Oh my! The time is yours, buddy.
6A, State College in St. Joe's.
I don't. Yeah, it can be that way. That's right. Yeah. Okay.
5A, a rematch from this year, McDevitt and Roman Catholic.
That can be. That could be.
I hope Chester gets in.
4A, Shamokin and Aliquippa.
Oh my! You know what though? That's a smart pick because you got to pick like a team like that, right? You can't pick all the front runners. Okay, that's good.
Aliquippa.
Mike Warfield's back, Gary. You know that, right?
I know that, and I have a feeling they are not expecting to survive getting bumped up yet again.
Are they getting bumped up?
They attempted to do it for this cycle, and between legal stuff and appeals, they did. I don't believe
they won their appeal, and they didn't go far enough this year to add any of those points,
right?
Those competition points or whatever it is. So they're gonna. I think they're going to be securely in 4A for the next 3 seasons.
Oh, they may the transfers may throw a monkey wrench slightly into that, but
all right. So now we're down to what, 3A?
3A, Berwick, and Penn Cambria.
Oh my. Okay. All right.
And the one that I feel least confident about is AA, Southern Columbia, Cambria Heights.
I like Southern Columbia. I keep hearing that they just took a year off.
I mean, Cambria Heights, my alma mater plays them, and they ran roughshod through everybody. They just happened to run into the buzzsaw that was Central Clarion.
Right. And
single A, as much as it's like cliche to say it, Bishop Guilfoyle and Clerton.
Well, they it is cliche, but you got to go with who you feel. And I don't know how young Clareton is. I mean, they kind of, I don't want to say nosedive, but they scored 65 points a game, and then down the stretch when it mattered most, they just couldn't get it done. I watched it. They couldn't throw the ball and they couldn't kick the ball, and they paid for it.
Clareton Clareton may have done somewhat what Aliquippa did, like take a year off almost like on it.
Right. Anybody else, Travis? You want to throw anything out there? You don't have to go top to bottom or bottom to top.
No. So I do like McDevitt to possibly repeat. I like the fact that I don't know who Aliquippa has coming back, but I like the fact that their coach is coming back.
I love that. Yeah.
And I got to think, and I'm just going to stop at the last one. Southern Columbia will be there.
Yeah. Right.
Sometimes you can pencil them in like you can pencil actually not even pencil them in with permanent markers. Southern Columbia, St. Joe's.
Right. I feel pretty strong. The only one I'm not sure about is 3A. But I'm going with the ones I Guilfoyle, Southern Columbia, McDevitt, Harrisburg, and what's the one and Aliquippa. So Dave, how about you, buddy? You got anything? Who do you like next year?
Next year will be my predictions, and I'm going to go definitely with LaSalle College next year will win the state championship. 6A, 5A, Chester will win the state championship. Absolutely insane, unbelievable athlete.
Coach Dennis Shaw, our guy.
Oh, yep. 4A. Well, I'm going to have to go with McDevitt.
No, they're 5A.
Oh, that's up to 5A.
They're not moving back.
They would play Chester.
Yeah, they would play Chester.
Chester's going to beat them.
Oh my!
That's why you got to have.
See, Gary, that's why we do this show every now and then.
Clippers got to get in the weight room. They got to get in the weight room so the strong up.
Well, we are gonna, we are ready anyway. 4A, go with Bonner again.
That's not a bad. Yeah, that's not a bad.
I mean, they're going to get more kids in because they want a state championship. They saw the excitement, and they're going to get more guys.
Okay.
I announced the Catholic Youth Championship yesterday, last night at O'Hara. Cardinal O'Hara was the 6th graders and the 8th graders. Wait till you see all these. It's going to be unbelievable where these kids go to. Unbelievable talent. You can't believe it. 3A, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't either. I mean, I don't know enough about
2A.
I should. I have a
2A
show
probably
here.
Southern Columbia. 2A.
Yeah.
Single A, I'll go with Bishop Guilford. It's too early to tell.
I would go with Bishop Guilford just about every year.
Chester 5A, LaSalle College 6A.
Okay, great.
Or LaSalle, I should say. LaSalle. I'm not allowed to say college anymore. It's LaSalle.
Go ahead, Travis.
Oh, no.
Oh, I thought you were trying to jump in. All right, that's it, fellas. Thank you. We went a long time there. Okay, I wanted to save time for McDevitt, and we did. So once again, Coach Jeff Wechter and his guys at McDevitt, congratulations. Second title in 3 years. That's strong, and they have a chance next year in 5A again. So keep up the good work. Can't wait to watch the McDevitt Harrisburg game next year at Severance Field. That should be a good one. So
they should thank the public address announcer for that. They should.
Who? You?
They asked me to be the public address announcer.
They should. So let me thank the sponsors one more time, and then I want to thank you guys. Stick with me. Don't go anywhere. Our Lingelstown Gazette Platinum sponsors, responsible for the last 4 months. We've done 16 of these. They've been just fabulous. I don't set out looking for a number of views or a number of hits or a number of whatever you want to call it. We get a lot of people watching these shows, man. I mean, thousands. We get 2,400, 2,800. We've gotten 3,400. That's a lot of people. And our audience has grown from Central PA. Now we have people from like Cole Region and Western PA down Dave's Way. So thank you all for watching. Rickabaz Electric, Payer Apparel, Ted's Bar and Grill, Hoffman Ford, Freedom Financial Wealth Management, the Tire Mart, American Legion Post 272, Modern Imprint, Team PA, AAU Basketball, Crystal Bob at Howard Hanna Real Estate, Underdog Sports Bar and Grill, Capital Region Insurance Agency, Sam Hartley Decking, and Tonino's Pizza. Thanks to those great local businesses for their continued support of Lingelstown Gazette Sports and our area student athletes. Gary, thank you for sitting in with us tonight, buddy. Great job on trivia. We'll catch up if we don't do anything over the off season. We'll catch up next year. I want to thank Big Shot Ben Dupree, Eric Thomas, ET, best play-by-play guy in the state, does a great job. Terry Clark has been with us all year. Terry, thanks a lot, man. You do a great job. And of course, Travis Waters, man, you're an awesome guy. You're my friend now. And I'm going to tell you right now, Travis, we're going to go out and get something to eat. The crew, the panel of experts, I will buy. All right. This is on Lingelstown Gazette Sports because I like being around you guys outside of whatever you want to call this here. And that won't be a virtual meal. We'll get together. Dave, if you want to eat, you got to drive up. Okay. So Dave Berman, the voice of Delco, great job all year. It's just been a lot of fun. And
looking forward to basketball, man.
We're gonna do it. We're gonna do. Travis he's gonna be a sometime. Don't count on him, guy. I can see him jumping in sometimes though. We're gonna have fun. Dave's on the crew. Tomorrow night, once again, we have hopefully Coach Kirk Smallwood, who missed it last week, Coach Ty Savercool, and we have Paul Blackburn, Hershey coach, as our opening guest. But we're going to start rolling our sleeves up and getting into this.
Anytime you want me back, let me know.
Oh, you do basketball, Gary?
A little bit.
Okay.
I reffed. We had talked before the trivia thing. I've reffed football. I reffed basketball.
Okay, so you know your basketball. Dave, go ahead, buddy.
I know a little bit.
Oh, yeah, I was saying I saw Harrisburg Friday night, the boys basketball team, and Coke was playing, and Brannon, and they gave Hazelton a pretty good game up there.
Okay,
I mean, they troubleshooting the ball, but the Hazelton announcers, Paul Bowe and the gang, just the athleticism that Harrisburg has athletes. They could hopefully there'll be at least 500 this year. Harrisburg High, Damone Maxwell.
Well, they used to supplement with football players. Now I think they have, and I don't know. I should probably know more before I speak. But you don't want to be relying on the football players, right, Travis?
Well, that's interesting you say that because while the McDevitt game was going on, I had my phone and I was watching the Harrisburg Hazleton basketball game just for you so that I could contribute. And I was watching, but I was kind of surprised that they had so many basketball players starting. It was less than a week after they played.
Yeah, that's not what you want,
They looked
man.
a little frenetic.
Yeah.
Well,
I
that's
guess
all right. You got to play. They're young.
Oh yeah.
I'm saying in an ideal situation, they're a
Yeah.
big school. I just think I wish, because I root for Harrisburg sports. I'd like to see them have basketball players primarily, and then bring a couple football players in, just to kind of like Micah Parsons was, and they over the years they've had plenty of football players, but they're stars. The ones that kind of helped them bring home the heavy hardware were basketball players.
You're absolutely. So when they won their state championships, I think the only football player in '98 may have been Mark Lester. Oh, Mark Lester and Tim Brown, Kevin Brown.
Right.
And then in 2002 state championship game, the only, I think, Danny Lanzana, defensive coordinator from the Devitt, was probably the only football player. He was a Division I football player.
Yeah.
So I shared the link with you, Travis. I don't know if you saw it or not.
I did see it.
Jump on if you want.
Okay.
Dave Berman, you're off tomorrow. You have your own show down there. And then after tomorrow, we're going to settle back into that Sunday at 6:00 time, since we're done. Guys, I'm kind of holding back tears here, man. That was a great 4 months. I really had a lot of fun with you guys. You guys are awesome. I started calling you my panel of experts, just kind of affectionately joking around. And I thought, but we got done with the second week. I'm like, they really are experts, man. And they are a panel. So you guys are forever the panel of experts. That's what you go by. All right. Thanks, everybody. We really appreciate it. Appreciate the people that were sat in tonight and commented. And congratulations to Mike Lawler, you and your family. Great championship. And we will see everybody soon. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, guys.